Good morning, Kavita.
Good
Welcome to
morning.
Leaders in Library Season 2. How are you doing?
I am doing very well. Thank you, Rajiv. Hope you're doing well too. I think things seem to be going back to normal, so I'm a happy
Absolutely.
woman.
Absolutely. Things are getting back to normal. We missed you on Season 1, but I'm glad that you could come on board on Season 2.
Me too. That makes two of us.
Yes. Before we get started and talk on the book that you've chosen for the day, let me quickly introduce you to the audience. All right. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever part of the world you are going to be when you listen to the guest of the day. All of you attended season 1 of Leaders and Libraries, and you had 33 guests coming and talking on 22 powerful books. Season 2, you have 40 guests talking on 40 different books over a period of 2 months. That's massive. And we have yet another guest today, Ms. Kavita Nair, Associate Vice President, Organization Development, People and Culture for Sterling Tech. Comes with around 17 years plus 18 years of experience in the space of training and development, ODE, people and culture. She's done a lot of work across multiple organizations. She's also a certified executive coach and also a life coach. Plus, she's also a certified instructional designer, which means she does a lot of work in terms of creating learning journeys for organizations and building leadership capabilities. Beyond all that, I'm very happy to have her because she's also a book lover like me. So, welcome on board, Kavita.
Thank you so much, Rajiv. The pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
Super. So before we get started on the book, which is a very interesting book for me, and talk on a couple of concepts that the author is talking, let me throw the first question to you. So rub your hands and get ready for the first one. Tell me, Kavita, how did your association with books start and how early was it? And with this new look that you have come up with, you're looking a college girl, not like a corporate leader. So let's go back to your girl days. Tell me, how did it start?
Ironically, it did start back in the school days, which is the look I'm spotting off lately. I think this is my post-COVID look. My association with books started really early on. It was early school days, and I would compulsively, have to read all the books that an author wrote, and I realized at a point that that's not possible. But to be in all my honesty, I think I was just trying to emulate an older cousin, my
Mm-hmm.
my one of my cousins, and she was an avid reader. I think she still is. Um, and I just wanted to be like her. And I would always see her with these thick, fancy books that she reads, and she could not be bothered about what was going on in the world. She would
Mm.
be so immersed in these books. And I said, I want to experience that. And
Right.
that is how I picked up my first book. So it was primary days in school. But yeah.
So that's what, fifth standard, sixth standard?
Earlier than that. I think I
Earlier
was
than
in
that?
third or fourth grade. Yeah.
Right. Do you remember any of those early books that you started reading that was interesting for
Oh
you?
dear. So first it used to be comic books. So it started with Archie's.
Uh,
Oh my God, that was quite a collection. Then I moved on to Nancy Drew. I moved on to Danielle Steele, and their books. I ensured that I completed
Lovely.
them. But yeah, somehow along the way I realized that fiction is not for me,
Uh,
and then I
but
switched over.
were you also a Tinkle Chanda Mama person or no?
Yes, Supandi was my favorite.
Supandi. Shikari
Absolutely.
Shampoo and Supandi, how can we forget
How
that?
can we? I mean, our childhood thrived on that. So,
I know, seriously. My father used to travel during those days on official work, and when he goes out on inspection for 3, 4 days and comes back, he would carry that Sarkari briefcase. We would wait for the briefcase to open normally like a pitara box because every time he comes back, he would definitely come back with 3 books. One would be a Tinkle, which is the latest edition, one Amar Chitrakatha, and a Chanda Mama. So, ये तीनों तो हमेशा रहता था. And I remember
perfect.
when I started reading Tinkle, it was 65 paisa a book, and when I stopped, or I remember I still have them, the costliest one went up to 7 rupees 40 paisa or something.
Yeah, I think that was my allowance that I spent. I think four rupees, if I remember it right. Yeah, 4 rupees was always dedicated to a tinkle.
I know, seriously. When I came to my 11th standard, my father gave me a wallet and he said, "This is for you." And he put a 50 rupees into it. "This is your pocket money. पूरे महीने के लिए इसको रख लो." And I had to keep 50 bucks and end of the month give a हिसाब की 50 रुपए कहाँ खर्च हुआ. And if I have 40 bucks, he would only give me 10 rupees less saying पिछले महीने का 10 बचा है. Great days. I think we really valued those days and we
Absolutely.
cherished them a lot, right?
Yeah. I
Lovely.
mean, that's what keeps us going.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Very nostalgic. So you started with all these Nancy Drews, famous fives, and Tinkles of the world, and you went on to read management books. Tell me
Yes.
how these books played a role, Kavita, in your own growth as a reader.
I think predominantly these books have had a profound impact. So that's undeniable. But what I've always believed that these books were my reality check back in the
Mhm.
day. I was very ambitious, or I would like to think I'm still very ambitious. So a reality check that you chose consciously. So I would go to the bookstore, pick up a
Mm.
book, or we go to our Radhiwalas and pick up a book.
Right.
Back in the day, these books used to be really expensive. So
Yeah.
and you didn't have a source of living, so you had to go figure out. I think the first book that I picked up was Anthony Robbins.
Wow.
Um, and that was a dense book for somebody who had just moved into non-fiction per se, but it has helped me in the sense that being a leader, and when I started leading teams, I realized that we weren't as blessed back in the day about 15, 20 years ago, where we didn't have
Mm.
these elaborate leadership development programs.
Correct.
So we to hone our skills, to prepare for the role
True.
and so on. So what did we do? We had our two classic strategies. One is emulate my leader, be just like my leader, and hopefully you have a good leader, a good example to emulate. And the other one would be our everybody's favorite trial and error.
Mm.
So what these books did for me would was that it forced me to think differently. It told
Right.
me that there's something else that's possible, something that I may not have seen in my workplace, something that I didn't even think of because my perspectives were very narrow at the time. But
Mm.
it constantly showed me that there is something else that's possible.
Fantastic.
And yeah, that's what kept me going back into another book.
Superb, superb. I think it's a powerful point. All young listeners here, emulating your boss, trying your own trial and error method. You have the third best alternative. Pick up the books and get a lot of learning from those books.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So tell me, with all the books that we spoke about, what made you pick up Attitude is Everything by Jeff Keller?
First, because this is like the third or the fourth time I'm reading it. This is the book that I have right now with me is my third book because the first two somebody took and never returned, and I can safely say I know why. But with this book, it is so real and it is so on point. It's unbelievable.
Hmm.
It's my go-to book basically. On a difficult day or on days when I need my dose of hope and positivity. I
Hmm.
know, and it's not failed me, or I hope I'm not failing the book actually, but it hasn't ever disappointed me ever in the last 10 odd years, probably less than 10 years, maybe around 7 8 years. If I pick up the book, I have my dose. And what else could one ask for? I mean, it's such a good reminder that things are possible, and we just need that reminder from time to time.
Yeah, yeah. And the 14, 15 lessons that he speaks about, so beautifully articulated and simple ones, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Lovely.
Make
So
me
let's
want to be a writer.
oh yes. So let's delve into a couple of lessons that he talks about, and I picked up some 6 or 7 from here. Let's start with the first one. The first lesson that he talks about: wash your window. And this was marvelous when I read it
Yeah.
first time.
Pretty profound,
How do
right?
you link this to leadership?
So I'm a strong believer that as a leader, the foremost leadership skill is self awareness.
Mm,
I know it is easier said than done, and not that every leader is 100% self aware. We all have our rabbit hole moments, but when we talk about washing your window, what it's telling us is that when we look through our window,
mm,
we have a different color tint on it every day.
right.
Different parts of the day, there's a different color tint on it. But that's how you experience the world. That is how you see, and that is how you respond, choose to respond or react to the world. Now, it has a direct bearing on how I function in that day.
Mm,
So as leaders, we need to be more deliberate, first of all, and conscious of keeping that window clean by being self-aware or at least making an effort to it.
okay.
This will in turn allow us to shed off the baggage that we have, because that
Mm,
window and all the dirt that is on the window is nothing but, it could be perceptions that we've picked up along the way, the
mm,
process of growing up, in our leadership journeys or in our employment
mm,
journeys. But
mm,
if we try and keep, and that's an effort, and I keep saying this, that I'm a work in progress, but
right.
it just allows us to focus better, helps us innovate, think out of the box,
Mm,
just keeps things light. That's how I look at it. Keep
okay.
try and keep your windows as clean as possible. And because we are leaders who people are going to look up to.
Mm.
I would want to be that leader that my team or whoever I work with are able to at least pick up something that they then want to go and build on in their own lives,
Right.
rather than being the one that I've taught them what not to be.
Right. Is there any one effort that you take either daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis to say that, okay, I'm going to invest this time in washing my window?
Yeah, yeah. I every single night I journal.
Okay.
Every single night. I think it's been a practice for a little over 4 years now. Yeah, a little over 4 years. And like I said, I believe that I'm a work in progress. So, and something that I truly, truly believe, and all the books that I've been reading from very early on has taught me something. What we think is what we become. So
Right.
it is very, very important to reevaluate what is it that, how was the day?
Mm.
What could I have done differently? And that perspective, because our days are so packed. And I think now that we work from home,
Yeah.
lots of things are happening in tandem, and we
Mm.
weren't used to that. We could compartmentalize really well
Correct.
previously. We just don't have that privilege anymore. So at night, when I'm just before going to bed, however late it is, I will scribble, I will write down everything that went through the day. What could I have done differently? I believe this prepares me for the next day, to
Mm.
be and just allows me to sleep slightly better.
Yeah.
And I read different kind of books. I don't read only one type, but I pick up anything that I find on Amazon or in a bookstore. It just depends. And I have my moments when I'm in totally in love with TED Talks. So I these are my three go-to things. But if something that I do very consistently is journal. It helps.
Fantastic, fantastic. One of the great lessons I had from a book recently was journaling is such a fabulous practice that the great leaders from the World War days used to follow, which apparently they say is diminishing in the young mind. And they say journaling is one of the key ways to keep growing.
Yes. I can keep going about journaling, so you'll have to stop me there. But once you see your words on a piece of paper, it is very powerful. Yeah.
Absolutely. Writing is a great method. Yeah. Beautiful. So a day is packed for you. A lot of things happening in tandem, as you said. A lot of thoughts running. And he beautifully talks about the next concept called dominant thoughts rule the day. What
Yeah.
is a dominant thought for an individual, and how should a leader work on identifying the dominant thought and help himself or herself to settle down or calm down or make it easier? Any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. So, like I said, what we think is what we become.
Mm,
If we focus our energy on something 10 times a day,
mm,
you can be almost certain that you will see that happening, that
mm,
self-fulfilling prophecy that he talks about. And that's something that is not just Jeff Keller talking about. That's across any self-help book that you will pick. That's going to be a component in it.
mm,
It talks about watching what we are thinking, how
mm,
we are actually, how that's manifesting in us, in feelings and emotions and stuff like that. I believe that I'm a case study to prove that point,
mm.
actually. My dominant thoughts since I was a little girl has shaped my life.
Right.
So I have had to make some very big adjustments to my attitude and my thought process to be able to come out of that zone
Mm,
where I was doing things that were very counterproductive
mm,
uh, to myself by thinking negatively or thinking that it's not possible, and fear and stuff like that. And like I said earlier, so I'm a work in progress, and I'm going to remain a work in progress for the rest of my life. And journaling is what helped me, is because what was my dominant thought during the day?
mm.
There are three times in a day, and it's on my alarm. And I started this since May last year. Yeah, since May last year, there are three alarms on my phone, and it just rings and it reminds me to just self-assess.
Wow.
How am I feeling?
I'm going to
This is something that I learned in a recent
I'm going to make
training
a
that
note
I
of
did
this.
on
Don't worry.
emotional agility.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Alarms a
what?
day.
Sorry, you were saying?
I'm making a note of this at 3 alarms a day and posting it here.
Yeah, three alarms a day, and all you have to do is just for that tiny little second when that alarm's ringing and your heart beats racing.
That's back and
Yeah, just switch off that alarm and assess. how am I feeling and why am I feeling that way?
A nice one.
Tense, stressed, frustrated, angry, irritated, super happy, satisfied, whatever that might be. And that's been pretty powerful, from being able to manage your emotions well enough, that's something that I started very recently, and I can see a profound impact
Beautiful.
on me. on
Beautiful.
me
Thank you so much. I am connected with somebody who does a lot of work in the space of happiness quotient, and he works using technology. I'm going to give him this input of feeding this into the backend and see if that can be added into his app. Look at the three
Wow.
terms that people. Thanks for that. That's a very powerful one. So simple, but it definitely gives you those moments to pause and then come
Pause.
back and punch.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very nice. Very, very nice. I think young leaders should do that because the young leaders are so in a rush to do things and they seem to be a little worried. And I'm not painting them wrong, but aspiration is large. There's an urgency to achieve things. In that,
True.
this effort to pause and think on the dominant thought, I think becomes all the more important, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think, like you said, the world is changing. There's so much pressure.
Mm,
uh, so they are forced, or they feel compelled to behave and
mm.
function, at on that level of drive, which I appreciate, because we didn't have that level of drive
Yeah.
back 15,
Yeah.
18 years ago. But yeah, I think that pause is very important, because that's going to give them a moment to evaluate,
Mm.
self-evaluate, self-assess, reassess perhaps something that you could have done differently. And
Correct.
that pause is going to be a deal breaker. That's what's going to set them apart from the person sitting next to them.
Beautiful. True, true, true. Very, very nice. So, as you keep thinking on the dominant thoughts of the day and your life progresses, right? A lot of things happen in the past, a lot of things happening here, and we want certain things to happen in the future. He also gives this beautiful element of visualization in the
Yeah.
book, and he talks it in terms of movies.
Yeah.
And he says, change the old movies and create new
New
ones,
ones. Yeah.
right? We know the meaning of it as basic English. Tell me, what did you do differently to actually practice this? And
Yeah.
what would be your one advice to the young ones?
I think when we talk about this specifically, what it is going to allow people to do is move forward, because
Okay.
there's a lot of baggage in all our pasts. It could be personal, it could be professional, and it could be a lot of other things. uh, but when we talk about visualization, one thing that I try to do, and it takes takes a lot of effort and girth actually to stay on course with this one, but is to always imagine what the ideal state is. And this I've learned from one of my leaders. He talks about this a lot. What's the ideal state? Can you visualize what the ideal state looks like?
Mm,
Um, and more often than not, you're thinking, I didn't think of that. I don't
mm,
know what the completed picture may look like.
correct.
And that is something that may allow people to keep looking forward, rather than still evaluating and spending too much time in the past.
Mm,
Because we all have to move forward. We're going to have great days or great years, and even greater years, and a really bad
true.
years. I think what we saw in the last 1 year as humanity is a testament to that. So what's next? So
Mm,
we need to be able to show our teams and coach them to start looking at what the ideal state looks
mm,
and feels like. I think feeling is very important to this.
right.
That's what drives it to fruition. And keep the fire alive. It will keep your teams motivated. It will keep you motivated if you can keep your eye on the prize. But like I said, it's easier said than done. And we need to stay realistic. So there are going to be moments that it's going to be difficult, but my three alarms help.
So let me go back to the same thing. When he says change the meaning of the old movies, what does it mean? Something has happened.
Yeah, so
What
I
strike the
actually,
balance?
yeah, and if I link that to the next chapter as well, when we talk about uncertainty and adversity and
Mm,
stuff like that, I am a true believer, and I love one phrase in the book. It says, "No pressure, no diamonds." So, uh, we have to first of all change the thought process and how we view adversity and change,
mm,
because that's been a big one for me to change the meaning of my old movie is to
mm.
look at it differently.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would look at what has happened in my personal professional life differently, from a sense that, you know what, adversity was there to teach me something. I
Hmm.
know it sounds really cliched, but trust me, if you can change, or at least, make an effort to think like that, because adversity came in with an intention to teach you something.
Hmm.
It will teach you something new about yourself,
True.
first and foremost. It will teach you something about that situation, and it will build you up from there. It's going to allow you to see for yourself
Hmm.
what you are capable of doing, what your potential is. And
True.
that has been a game changer for me personally,
Hmm.
because I found myself going down that rabbit hole 12 years ago,
Okay.
uh, when I was spiraling and then thinking, and not professionally. Professionally, I was doing pretty well and growing and stuff. But from a personal standpoint, I was in a different space. And I remember somebody very wise in my family who said, "You have only one life. Look at it like a lesson. You've
Hmm.
learned something that you will never do again, and move on." And I probably was in a space where I was paying attention to people at the time. So
Hmm.
I took that feedback really to heart, and I said, you know what? Yes, I've now learned five, six things that I'm
Hmm.
never going to make that mistake again, and I'm going to move forward. And
Right.
that then fueled me into self improvement.
Hmm.
I can be a better version of myself, and how can I do that? And that's when, a lot of then doors started to open.
Hmm.
And when I accepted that as my reality, and I accepted that as something that has changed me as a
Hmm.
person,
Hmm.
doors started to open, and opportunities started to come in for me to learn something different, or to experience and to show myself and the world what I was truly capable of. I
Okay.
remember being pushed into things that I had never done before, and I did them really well, and I'm so
Super.
grateful for that. Yeah.
Super. So that's tempting me to ask you the next one, and I'm going to ask you for specific examples.
Yeah.
And if you're okay to share two instances that really help young minds to understand. And he beautifully says this: every adversity carries with it a seed of an equal or a greater opportunity. Is
Absolutely.
what the next lesson is, which is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So give us two specific instances, Kavita, if you're open to do that.
So
One adversity, suddenly you realized, why is this going down? And then later in hindsight, you realize that this adversity actually brought in the seed of a great opportunity for Kavita. And then it happened not once, but at least two, three times in life. Then
okay,
I'll share mine.
sure. The first one was about, yeah, 10, 12 years ago. It's almost, and it was a personal setback.
Mm.
um, and I'm going to share something personal, because I am okay to talk about it. Is that
And keep
I
it.
was going to go through a divorce, and I was a young girl at the time, and I had just had my son. So I had a choice to make at that time, and that's why I said I was paying attention to people at that time,
Right.
because I was responsible for another human being. And at that point in time, one of my aunts said, "You have only one life.
Mm.
This is it, and it is up to you what you want to do from this point onwards. Don't do it for your parents, don't do it for your son, don't do it for this, that, do it for yourself." And that was pretty powerful, because that's when I started thinking about myself.
Mm.
um, and that adversity I dissected to the point possible on
Mm-hmm.
a piece of paper. I still remember it was a piece of paper, and I started scribbling on it. And I moved past that, I think, about a couple of weeks later, and I looked at myself and I said,
Mm.
I clearly survived. And
Right.
from this point onwards, it's only going to be bigger and better things, because I've learned my lesson. I'm going to move on.
Mm.
And I moved on. I
Beautiful.
started investing better. My health improved, first and
Mm.
foremost. My health improved. I was able to be a better mother, a better daughter, better
Right.
friend, a better colleague to people around me. I felt really good about myself. Then it motivated me furthermore to pick up more responsibilities at work. It didn't stop me that I had a newborn baby. So
Mm.
I rejoined work about 5 months later, and I was still doing the things that I was doing before. In fact,
Ah.
I had more responsibility. So I think that was one, life changing moment for me. And the second one was what we experienced last year. I'm I'm uh, I'm somebody who likes being around people. So we are L&D folks. You can imagine our plight when we had to sit at home and do numbers all day long. So
We'll die.
to yeah, exactly. It was a difficult thing. It was really difficult. And I remember my team and me, obviously the L&D team, we could constantly talk about, our struggles when it came to work from home. But, when we talk about, my organization, we are very well supported, and we have the means and folks to talk to and stuff like that. But when last year when we were experiencing this, I realized, and it taught me a big lesson on agility. So, how agile am I as a professional?
mm,
How quickly was I able to adapt? How much did I let it affect me?
mm,
So, like I said, we all have our rabbit hole moment. So we did go down the rabbit hole, but
mm,
came out, fairly quickly and got on with work, got on with business. I had two senior citizens at home, was a child at home to take care of, plus work. But I realized that, what, I can do this. It's
yeah.
not as difficult as my mind was making it, make me
Seem
believe it.
difficult.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It's been difficult, so I'm not going to deny that. But is it impossible? Is it something that's going to take every bit of the energy in me? No. My
Mm,
preference is obviously for me to be in a different setup,
mm,
but is this impossible? No, it is not. If I need to do this for as long as my organization requires me to do it, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability.
uh, uh, Thank you so much for sharing that, Kavita, and thank you for courageously sharing your personal thing. That was not required, but thank you for doing that. I
Yeah,
completely appreciate that. It's it's not that you are the only woman who went through this. There are many ladies,
true.
unfortunately, go through this. Many men go through this. It's not a gender bit here. I mean, even men,
Absolutely.
they go through the same pressure and mental trauma that a woman would go through. But the point is, it's not about what happened in your life. But the fact is, how did you scribble it down and then you suddenly realize that there is a better version of you and you became the better version. And after this, things are going to be good and better. That confidence, and it's been good and better.
Touch wood. Absolutely.
Lovely. Yeah. Very, very nice. Thank you so much. It's making me think a lot. With this, I want to go to the next one, right? And he talks about this lovely thing called words and accountability. Honestly, before this book, I know the meaning of these two words, but I never thought them together.
True.
And this book made me think them together. And marvelous learning. What has been your interpretation of this? And I want you to answer this only within the ambit of the word called leadership.
Correct.
They say leadership only from top leadership
Hmm.
space.
So, when we talk about words and accountability, again, I'm going to go back to what you think is what you become. So, we've got to be very careful with our words. Uh, and when we talk about accountability, if you say something out loud and you proclaim it out loud, it's your credibility that's on the line.
So,
Yeah, it's you on the line. So, and I think that's a great motivator. And when it comes to leadership, your words have a lot of value because people are, going to use that as an instruction,
hmm, the
as a
communication,
communication, or as a word of god for all but it's
yeah,
going to be something that's going to be followed, picked up, and then taken on.
true,
So we have
true.
the accountability to put and feed our people the positive stuff first of
Hmm,
all, and be that reality check for them as well.
hmm,
um in my career, I've realized that the communication that we have from our senior leadership is of profound importance, because
true,
that sets the tone in terms of what are your goals, what is the mission,
correct.
the strategy that you're achieving. And I think if our senior leadership does it so well, we have the ownership, sitting in the middle, where we are then going to pass this on,
Hmm,
our versions to our teams. So we have to know, get our thoughts aligned first of all,
hmm,
and be very careful with what we put out, because we
hmm,
have the power to influence people the right or the wrong way. So, and that's
true,
pretty powerful.
true. Which also is the one that he talks about is the power of responses as a leader.
Yeah.
And he spends a good number of pages on this bit.
Yeah.
So,
So,
which is nothing but connected to the earlier one, right? So, do you want to elaborate a
true.
little on that?
Yeah. So, how I choose to respond to something will decide how I feel about it, and vice versa.
Say that again. Say that again.
So, how I choose to respond to something
Uh huh.
will decide how I feel about it,
Correct.
and vice versa. So, how I feel about it is going to dictate how I choose to respond.
Mm,
So, it is
mm,
very interconnected, and we have to make a conscious effort, for a positive disposition. Is it possible for somebody to be positive all the time? That's not realistic. Yeah, life happens to us. So when it does, rabbit hole
Hmm.
moments, are right there waiting. The rabbit hole is right there waiting for you to jump into it. But if you have to go down that rabbit hole, we just need to have our exit strategy. How am I going to come out of the rabbit hole? And if you're aware, and I'm telling you, my 3 alarm clocks is my strategy, because it instantly just, grounds me and says, you know what, why would you want to go down that road? And is it the end of the world? Is it something that you can resolve? Is it something that you need to just change your perspective, look at it differently? Do you need to redo something?
Hmm.
And that just is my exit strategy out of the rabbit hole, honestly.
Okay.
And when it comes to team management and stuff like that, something that I've learned along the way is reminding your team and yourself, firstly yourself and then your team, is that are you responding
Hmm.
or are you reacting?
Right.
Again, so I'm blessed with leadership like that who reminds me of this from time to time. So is this a response or a reaction?
Yeah.
So that again is a good reality check. Just reminds and grounds you and says, you know
True.
what, is
True.
that how I want to respond to it?
I know. Many years back, I had a boss. When a mail would come to us from the functions, I would, after 5, 10 minutes, I would respond. I would write back as a reply and keep my boss CC. So one day he calls me, he says, let's have a chat. I said, yeah, okay. Then he said, Rajiv, something I've been practicing for the last 16, 17 years. I thought I'll give this as a tip. Whenever mails come to me, there are certain which are normal transactional responses. I respond. There are certain where they ask me for an input or a guidance or I need to give some decision, which is important, which will have organizational impact. I park them and I respond only in the evening.
Yeah.
So 5 to 6, I keep the time for responding to mails. His name was Gautaman. He lives in Australia now. He said, I set it a trend that people knew that any mail that needs a strategic response or a thoughtful response would come to us back as a reply from Gautaman only after 6 p.m. Let's not expect anything before that. And I set it up as a practice, and people would never come and bother me कि अभी तक आपका जवाब क्यों नहीं है उनको पता है कि 6 साढ़े 6 तक जवाब आ जाए.
Hmm.
I think you should practice this, Raji, because you write well, you respond very well, but there are certain words which kind of shows that there's an urgency to respond. You may want to think on that. So I went back to a couple of mails and read, and I could clearly figure out a pattern of certain urgency that is which I was not aware of at all.
At all.
And greatest learning for me. And after that, I have been practicing for the last 8, 9 years. It is beautiful. So now people with whom I communicate and regularly connect, they know कि this is the time जब राजी से response आएगा.
Hmm.
So I practice exactly what Gautam did, which is what emulating you said. It's a great learning. I think which is what you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very impactful, yeah, for sure.
seriously, seriously, lovely. Yeah, thank you so much. This is fantastic conversation. I'm going to take you to the last question as we come to the close of this chat. With all the years of experience, the ambitious person that you are, and this book that you've read 3, 4 times, what are two razor sharp advices you want to give to the growing young leaders?
So that's going to be easy. So that, because this book is like packed with it, but two things
I'm generous to give you 2 plus 1, 3.
so either two things that I can, like, straight off the bat tell you is, one is your thoughts will lead to your words, which will lead to actions, which will show up in your results. So please choose your words very wisely. That self talk is very, very important. So be very careful with how you talk to yourself. And the second one is that things that are uncomfortable have arrived in your life to teach you something.
Beautiful.
So just let it teach you and just pay attention. I think these two are have been my personal favorites or my personal learnings, which it's actually on a post-it note, on the desk that I sit now at home, because they're very good reminders.
Thank you. They were bullseye. You did not elaborate them. Thank you so much for that. I think these are very powerful. I personally love the second one. I think it's a great learning. As you rightly said, 2020 has been the biggest lesson for the second one that you spoke about. It has
Yeah,
taught us a lot of things that probably the decade did not teach us.
true that.
10 months has taught us that much. Right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Kavita, for coming on board, talking about this powerful book. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I hope you did so.
Likewise, I think that's pretty mutual. Thank you so much for having me. Rajiv, and being so patient because I was supposed to come on, a while back. But yeah, so thank you for having me. I had I had fun talking about one of my favorite books.
Fantastic. You have a good day ahead, and then I see you soon in your city as I start flying for work.
Absolutely, will do. Looking
Yeah,
forward to that.
lovely. Bye bye.
Bye.